Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to present my paper, Inside, Outside, Upside, Downside, Navigating Positionality as a Composer in Community Music. When my children were young, we enjoyed singing together an engaging action song that began, I'm inside, outside, upside, downside, happy all the time. I was inspired by these lyrics in titling today's presentation, but used them to depict quite different emotions provoked by grappling with my own positionality in research. Inside, outside, upside, downside portrays my sense of confusion, akin to a lost traveler who is not sure where they are, what direction they're facing, and where they belong. I recognize the necessity of careful consideration about the theoretical and practical implications of positionality as a student, a researcher, a musician, and a human. Using autoethnographical approaches, I will explore the upsides and downsides of fluid inside-outside paradoxes in relation to research and practice, emphasizing the need to consider multiple aspects of positionality along with its research ramifications. I will begin by reflecting upon my introduction to positionality and subsequent confusion brought about by my work as a composer in community music. I will also identify some ways of exploring positionality that might aid other students in their own research journeys. I am new to the notion of positionality. More precisely, I had never heard the term before 2018, the year I began my master's studies. This lack of exposure to the term and related concepts aligns with Holmes' observations that graduate students are often required to outline their positionality, but usually have no experience doing so, and thus find it to be challenging. I first encountered positionality in the beginning weeks of the qualitative research course required for the community music master's degree at Wilfrid Laurier University in Canada. Assigned readings from the course textbook by Cresswell and Poth presented positionality as a key feature of qualitative research and as essential to research proposals and reports. They write, all researchers bring values to a study, but qualitative researchers make their values known. We say that researchers position themselves by identifying their positionality in relation to the context and setting of the research. Although not emphasized by the professor, I included position statements and acknowledged potential bias in my research project, but I presented and understood my position to be fixed. However, as I have continued to think about my positionality since that time, I have come to feel uncertain about how to handle what appears to be insider-outsider status in a number of areas. Even during the preparation and writing of this presentation, I have again found myself mentally turning around and around in attempts to decipher my positionality. For example, I'm inside. I have decades of experience as an amateur community musician, beginning in childhood. This positions me as a community music insider, and yet not all of my community music activities align with the interventionist definition that is often proposed in the literature. So, am I truly inside? My introduction to community music academia arose from a desire for a deeper foundation to my community-related composition work. My resulting research and master's degree in community music appears to place me inside of scholarly community music circles. Yet it has only been since 2018 that I have had access to research and theory on the disciplines of community music and music education. In many ways, I feel like an outsider to these academic fields, being situated more as a practitioner. So, am I an insider, outsider, border crosser, or interloper? I'm outside. My formal higher education in music, which only began in my mid-30s, is sometimes seen by community musicians as now placing me in a different space from when I was just an amateur musician. It seems even more apparent now that I've undertaken graduate work. Comments such as, "You're the professional," and "You are on a different level," are disturbing to hear, and I attempt to navigate these types of complexities as I undertake research with participants from my own community. Again, am I truly outside now? Additionally, since the 19th century, composers have often been associated with prestige and power. But this connotation does not fit my philosophy of compositional practice. But I have found that community members, as well as professional musicians, can cling to old stereotypes, leading them to position me differently. This manifests itself in various ways, such as when attempts to collaborate are met with comments such as, "But you're the composer. Tell me what you want me to do." This is another positioning area where I could be outside in certain contexts, but inside in others. For example, my training, output, and professional associations as a composer locate me as an insider in the composition field, but my values, goals, and methodologies as a community composer researcher align with democratic music education. Does this place me then on the outside of an academic discipline that often continues to focus on the composer's voice, individual vision, and emphasizes performance values? In addition, I do not have a composition degree, but my background is a mixture of lifelong learning and higher education courses in composition. Is this further proof of my outsideness? And how does it affect my research questions, approaches, and interpretations? Adding further perplexity, one focus of my research has been driven by exploring the roles of composers in community music, and my resulting theory of relational composition places community composers on the inside of communities. Yet this work began with a literature search showing that the term composer seldom appeared in community music discourses, leading me to question if composers had a place within the field. In the ensuing research, some composer participants positioned themselves as outsiders to the composition field. Others positioned themselves as community music facilitators inside that field, and some saw themselves as outsiders to community music in a variety of unexpected ways. For example, some of the terms even that you are using, and I think some of the research and some of the practices of what is called community music are still within something that I find problematic. I don't feel that I'm inside something then trying to do community music, so I don't use that term for what I do at all. I've never used that term. Most of my research participants recognized that they were working along a spectrum and embraced their multiple positions. I too accept this continuum of practice for myself, but when it comes to research, I struggle with making sense of it all. Once again, I find myself inside, outside, upside, downside. I relate these experiences in order to demonstrate the oft-acknowledged difficulties of navigating positionality. It is fraught with questions and implications for research and practice, and though sometimes described in the literature as binary and extreme, positionality is multifaceted and shifting. Though some positions are fixed, such as race and nationality, other aspects exist on a continuum, resulting in a researcher holding many different positions all at the same time. This fluid nature of positionality has sometimes left me feeling unsure of where I fit. Additionally, while other scholars have presented positionality as non-binary, I simply had not encountered this thinking in a meaningful way. Perhaps my reflections to this point appear self-indulgent, but they concern weighty matters because conscientious and ethical researchers need to understand the nature of their positionality since it carries implications about knowledge, interpretation, and ultimately power. For example, Banks presented 4 categories of researcher positionality to clarify and add needed complexity to ideological debates and discussions about whose knowledge is authentic, who can know what, and who speaks for whom. Researchers hold a powerful position in the research process despite methodology, since, as Johnson Bailey says, they write the story and benefit from publication. As Peshkin has observed, positionalities can filter, skew, shape, block, transform, construe, and misconstrue what transpires from the outside of a research project to its culmination in a written statement. What Douglas and Nanga have articulated so well about pedagogy also applies to researchers. Having a position is expected, knowing your position is important, naming one's position is vital, but critically reflecting on how your havings, knowings, and namings may impact your interactions will change our approaches. I certainly had not thought through the various aspects when I undertook my research on community composers, and now I wonder if and how that process would be different had I done so. The hard work of positionality comes from needing reflexivity in all research phases: the literature review, the research design, ethics approval, submissions, securing access to participants, conducting the research, analyzing the data, composing the findings, and sharing the results. It is not a one-time event, but rather a process. Therefore, if we are serious about the importance of positionality, beyond checking the box that says, yes, we have included a position statement in our paper, how then might student researchers be helped to think about positionality and its effect? Time prevents a full examination, but obviously it begins in the classroom, where students' awareness can be intentionally developed through course readings, discussions. Models of positionality from seasoned researchers are valuable too, since everyone uses different ways to acknowledge that what they present is filtered through their voice. These ways include writing about it in the methods section, writing themselves into the work to implicitly reveal their position, and using forms of inquiry that explicitly incorporate positionality, such as autoethnography. With multiple approaches available, influenced by disciplinary traditions, I suggest that if a course textbook or reading focuses on just one approach, students will benefit greatly from seeing alternative demonstrations of positionality. Naturally, such activities take time, as does thinking and writing about one's position, but it should not be rushed, as it can require, according to Holmes, much soul-searching. Busy course schedules and deadlines, however, might hinder students and teachers from taking this needed time. Additionally, the word limitations inherent in journal submissions might result in brief or even shallow positionality statements. An alternative then is to examine longer dissertation papers, which are more likely to demonstrate how other student researchers have acknowledged their positionality. And it's also valuable to attend symposia and examine publications dedicated to exploring researcher positionality through different lenses, such as today's event and the symposium collection, How Do We Belong? In preparation for this presentation about my continuing positionality quest and questions, I was inspired by Richardson to use writing to closely examine my experiences and understandings in an effort to make sense of my changing worlds of community music, composition, music education, and academic study, along with my location within those worlds. I hope that you will find something valuable herein, but I too am a beneficiary, having now experienced the impact of taking time to read, reflect, and write about this topic. That is, I have a clearer sense of who and where I am. The map of positionality is ever-changing, since positions are not fixed. We are all multifaceted insiders, outsiders, border crossers, in-betweeners, straddlers, and other types of ers, depending on our context and interactions. I am in a complex space of paradox, ambiguity, and ambivalence, as well as conjunction and disjunction. This realization helps me to make better sense of all the positions I described earlier and suggests how to move forward in my practice and research with heightened awareness. Although I will need to do ongoing deliberation regarding my own positionality, I do not need to be confused by being so inside, outside, upside, downside, after all. I have included 2 slides for the references that I've used in this paper. I am happy to provide them upon request. And I thank you again for your attention today, and I look forward to discussing this with you further.